Right. We are live. Welcome everyone as you come in. Take your time, come in, enjoy. While we're waiting, we're gonna just kind of go over a few quick things, just get people excited. And this topic is super interesting. I think it's something that a lot of people, especially marketers out there, are gonna find value in. And so we're gonna be talking about managing up. How do you tell your marketing wins with data and value? And so, Alex, I'll get to you in a second, but for me, like I've done field marketing for a long time. I've done customer marketing, I've done account-based marketing. I feel like I've done a lot of different areas of marketing. And so I've always had to manage up how do I actually use the data from my programs, for my campaigns? How do I paint that picture to the executive team that what I'm doing is actually moving the needle, whether it's sourcing pipeline in revenue or you're influencing. As a field marketer, I was always playing in the middle and the bottom of the funnel. So a lot of what I did was influencing. But on the account-based side, a lot of what I was doing was on the creation of pipeline. So we'll do a quick, brief introduction of both myself and Alex. We'll go over some housekeeping notes, and then we will set the stage. So for those that don't know me, I'm Nick Bennett. I'm the co-founder over at TAC. We're an on-demand go-to-market firm. We have a media network as well. But before that, I've been in the B2B marketing world for probably about 12 or 13 years now, mostly working for early stage tech companies. Worked for Alice, worked for Clary, worked for a lot of other construction tech companies in the space as well. I've gone through multiple acquisitions, gone through IPOs, gone through companies running out of runway. So super excited to be here. I've known Alex for I feel like for a long time. And so excited to be able to
Mm,
do this with him. Alex, I'll throw it over to you to give a quick introduction of yourself, and then I'll get into some of the housekeeping notes.
absolutely. Hey, thank you, Nick, and thank you everyone who's joined us today. We're excited to have you. My name's Alex Cox. I lead go-to-market here at RevSure. I joined about 5, 6 months ago now, so we've really been getting things moving here. My background is very similar to Nick, and this is why we know each other. But I've been in the B2B marketing space for a while. I actually started off as an SDR, and I've kind of grown through different roles along the way. I've led marketing demand gen teams, ABM teams, led sales organizations as well. Been at a couple places in IPO with Nutanix in 2016, led growth at People AI, led marketing at a company called Upsani that was ended up getting acquired by Cisco slash App Dynamics as well. So really have the full scale from smaller companies all the way through that IPO and after IPO market. Been on the cloud infrastructure side, the DevOps, now here within kind of the sales ops martech space. But essentially, what RevSure is we're a full funnel marketing attribution platform, and really servicing all go to market teams, from RevOps to marketing folks, demand gen, all you fantastic people. And I know a lot of you are on the line today, so excited to just be sharing a little bit about us and our stories. And Nick and I are going to have a fun conversation about our stories today, and I'll let him share a little bit more.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, it's an I feel like, I remember I forget what conference we're at. Maybe it was Forrester. Like a couple of years ago. I was at Alice and I think you were still at people.ai, and I remember,
Hmm.
that's when I feel like we knew each other before that, but I feel like, we were able to like reconnect then, and then we've kind of like stayed in touch over the years as well. So, couple housekeeping items. First off, you can ask questions in the Q&A section. It's at the bottom. Drop your Q&A. Honestly, drop them throughout because we don't want to make this boring. We want to infuse your questions throughout. Use the chat, get excited, anything that you have. This is being recorded, so you will get the recording post-event as well. Um, it's going to be very conversational. There'll be a few slides of just kind of supporting our talk points there, but everything else should be pretty straightforward. And for those that are on the line, we're going to be giving away a Yeti cooler. This thing is an absolute beast. And I mean, I'm in Boston, so it's been absolutely brutal outside from a temperature perspective. So, I mean, I would love that to go hang out at the beach, have a few refreshments, get away from my kids. But that's that. I think that's all the housekeeping items. I'll kind of set the stage and then we'll kind of get into conversational discussion. But again, please ask your questions throughout. We want to make this as valuable for you as possible. And so when you think about it, there's a crucial aspect of marketing success, and it's effectively communicating our achievements to executives. I don't know if you've been there before, but I have had a lot of executives. I've rolled up to CMOs before, I've rolled up to CROs before. And as a field marketer, as an account-based marketer, as a customer marketer, being able to effectively communicate our achievements, small wins, big wins, everything in between, team wins, has been really important. And I think in the economy that we're in right now, especially in tech, it's not just about doing great work. It's about ensuring that our work's actually recognized, it's valued at the highest levels of the organization. Because let's be honest, everyone is replaceable. I was laid off about a year ago now. I was working for a company called AirMeet. We were in the virtual event space, and the founders just decided to go a different way. And so it was the third time in my career that I've been laid off. I know many, many other people have been unfortunately impacted. And so today we're going to explore a lot of the strategies that will help bridge the gap between marketing efforts and the executive understanding, which ultimately is going to drive better alignment and it's going to support all of our initiatives. If you can paint that picture using data and the value that you bring, not only do you maybe make yourself a little bit, more secure within your job, but hopefully you get a lot more budget to be able to do fun things. So let's get into it. I'll moderate things. Alex is going to be doing a lot of the talking, but I'm going to also add my point of view to a lot of these as well. So, Alex, to kick things off, I'm gonna give you a layup here, but why do you
Mhm.
believe attribution is crucial for marketing success?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, I'm going to share my screen really quickly as well, just so we have some talking points to go off of. Thanks, Nick. But I would say attribution is big because one, it helps tell your story. Right. You need to be able to tell your story, what you're doing, what's working and what's not working. And this is really the first slide. So at RevSure, we're an attribution platform, right? So I'm going to share a little bit about what we're doing, but also just past experiences, right? So what I have on the screen right now is just showing you demand gen effectiveness, right? And the most transparent thing you can do as leaders is not only tell people what is working, but what isn't working, right? It's when you come to the table and only share your wins that quickly your validation sort of gets lost, right? So I would say you need to be able to come and say, hey, we are doing these, 5 things, like I'm sharing on the screen. I have the campaign names blurred out just for privacy, but this is just a great example of showing you a full funnel view of what's working and what's not working. So we actually have a viewpoint in, and we use this ourselves to be able to say, okay, these digital ads, for example, I'm showing you kind of a viewpoint into Google of, what are the child campaigns that are working? What should we increase spend on? What should we continue driving? Right, that's showing us full funnel wins all the way from top all the way through at like a linear attribution standpoint, so multi-touch. And then there's also some things that we need to stop, right? And I think that's really critical to be able to share not only at the leadership level but also amongst your teams, right? Like in today's environment where every dollar needs to count, right? For the most part, and get in front of the ICP and the right people, right? Especially from a demand gen standpoint, we want to be able to make sure that we're getting in front of people the right way. And I would say to get back to the original question, that's why it's so vital, is to be able to share, okay, what's working, what's not working, what should we increase spending on, what should we stop putting our time, money, and efforts behind, and go from there, right? So I would say telling your story, sharing your wins and losses, but also sharing where you're pivoting, right? Where you're going to continue to put your team's effort and mind share to as well to continue to grow pipeline to gain opportunity to earn trust with your customers, right, and your prospects. So I'd say the big thing with attribution is really being able to tell that story, but also having the data that supports it, right? And having views like this is really critical in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with you. And I mean, trust me, I've had to use a lot of this before, and I know when you get into the attribution talk, like it can be a slippery slope. And I mean, I
Mhm.
think you've got attribution, I think you've got self-reported attribution. I think they all play a piece into what you're doing. And I think One of my experiences, I was at the company Alice, they're in the gifting space. And so we
Yeah.
had a multi-channel campaign where we could clearly attribute a 15% increase in qualified leads to our targeted social media efforts. So
Mm,
this data didn't only justify our strategy, but it also secured additional budget for future campaigns. And I think, again, being able to effectively communicate, because that was one thing that a lot of mentors have always told me, a lot have bosses have always told me, like the way that you communicate within an organization, both up, down, sideways, vertically, all of those things truly matters, especially if you want to move up in your career. Because as I got higher and as I took on more responsibilities, a lot of my job was communication and just being able to
mm,
paint that picture, using the data to inform strategy, decisions, all of those things. And I think it's important to talk about because some people just like to say like, attribution, I'm going to write it off. It's not that important to me. I think that using it as part of a larger strategy to show that you're actually making a difference within the organization and also using that as a way to secure more budget. Because let's be honest, tech, like budget is very hard to come across right now.
yeah.
Right now, we work with about 12 companies, and every single one of them, their marketing teams uh they're struggling for budget right now, and they're just like, yeah, we can't do as many, we can't really run multi-channel campaigns, or we can't really run what we want to run. Even a year ago it was different, which I still know was a tough time. So definitely
Yeah.
with you there. Let's kind of dive into this next piece on really presenting the marketing wins, because Alex, I'm sure you've got some great examples here, and I would love to know if you could share some of your effective techniques for how do you actually present marketing wins, but in a data-driven manner.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I go to the next slide here, I want to zoom into one specific event, right? This is Forrester B2B Summit within the marketing space, within the RevOps space. This is a big event that happens every spring, right? Usually held within Austin, Texas. And what I'm sharing here is a from one of my own experiences, a past company where I was leading growth, and we were really targeting, high enterprise companies, right? This was essentially a summary slide that we sent out to the whole executive team following the event, right? What did we do? Right? What specific activities did we attend? How did we get in front of, new opportunities? Were there any opportunities that were already in the pipeline that we were already having conversations with and we were building relationships with? So this is a great summary slide just showing the executive meetings, the activities like we were at, like I was saying, the leads collected, and then over to the right side, showing the value, right? Like this is not necessarily a cheap event. How did we get our wins? Right? Like how many thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars do we create with new opportunity? How much did we influence? At this particular company, we had different kind of levels of pipeline from a priority standpoint because we were like ABM based. Like how much was sourced from this? How much was brought in already from sales that we were able to influence, right? And I think that's the biggest thing is that it's not only what marketing did, they came to this event, they helped sponsor it, great, right? But it's like, how do we partner with sales, right? How do we drive partnership, and what's moving forward new, right? Because these are all companies that were a part of our ABM play, right? At the enterprise level, we're able to get in front of them, we're able to have conversations, and we're able to not only start relationships, but continue to build the relationship and build the trust there. So this is like one specific example that went out to the executive team. We're able to show them the numbers. It was just really fantastic. Uh, you know, easy to read, easy to understand, easy to digest, right? And they were able to come back and ask us questions off of it, right? And I think that's another thing that we were able to learn from this is make it easy to understand, make it easy to read, make it easy to digestible for our team that's especially our leadership team that doesn't want to necessarily have to go back into reports and dig through stuff, so forth and so on. Of course, there's reporting pulled into this and influence and attribution, but being able to make it a quick summary for them to see the wins, they want to be able to take this and put this into their board slides, share this out with investors, so forth and so on, right? So I would say this is one specific example, drilling down into one event when there's a good amount of investment put into it and showing the wins, right? Showing the partnerships, showing the ROI. So I'd say that across the board was really good example I wanted to share, and would love to get your thoughts here, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. Fun fact, as a field marketer, I've done lots and lots of trade shows. And I do not like booths. And I saw you had a 10 by 20 booth here. So I might be the only one that like feels this way as a former field marketer, but like I would much rather do other activations around executive meetings. I mean, the analyst meetings make sense. Like the breakouts from a specific event, I think. I mean, let's be honest. We know how much a 10 by 10 or a 10 by 20 booth costs at even like a
Mm,
Forrester or a Gartner conference or something like that. We're talking like could be anywhere from 50,000 to $200,000.
mm,
And so recouping some of that, if you're a small company, is absolutely hard. But I've seen a lot of success in presenting the success through a similar approach and even taking the booth out or doing, maybe like, co-marketing with someone else. But I think you brought up a
yep.
lot of great points. And for me, the big thing that I've found out is when you combine data and man, I can't even say this word, visualization with
There we
storytelling,
go.
it can it can be particularly impactful. And I think storytelling, every marketer should be a great storyteller. It's something that I'm still working on. I don't think I'm as good as I could be, but I've been trying to do better with like the storytelling and how do you combine the data and the visualization standpoint of it. But in my past, I worked at this other company. It was called PlanGrid. They were in the construction tech space, got acquired by Autodesk. And we created a dashboard that showed real-time ROI for each marketing channel. And so during our quarterly
Mm,
review, we use this to walk executives through the journey of a successful campaign, from the initial outreach to the final conversion. And so for us, it made the abstract concept of marketing ROI more tangible, more memorable. And it wasn't even that hard to do because more than likely you're pulling a lot of these reports anyways for like your own self or team or your marketing
yeah.
leader. But the executive team actually like if if you can get your executive team, CEO, CRO, whoever else is on the C-suite, to understand what marketing ROI is and get it to be more tangible and memorable, it's a fantastic way to also like share and get your marketing wins across the board. So huge believer of everything
Definitely.
there. Love everything you said. Let's talk about aligning goals because you talked about a good point. Sales and marketing, huge believer of that. I went down, as a field marketer, the sales team is your internal customer. And it was something where I worked really closely with the sales team, the SDR, BDR team, even customer success. And the enablement that goes into as a marketer to get sales bought into the campaign and all of those things is incredibly important. And not only that, but how do you then align your executive team? So going back to you, I'd be curious, how can marketing teams today ensure that their goals align with executive priorities? Because let's be honest, there's company objectives, and there's revenue objectives, but like how as a marketer can your own objectives, KPIs, all of those things roll up to broader business objectives?
Yeah. No, that's a great question, Nick. There's kind of two slides I want to look at here, two kind of examples. One is breaking out, kind of taking a step back. I showed you one example of one specific event, right? This is kind of us taking a step back and showing the overall like returns that we're getting on our investment through the different channels and us partnering with sales across all the different regions, right? So this is from another company that I worked at, and this is really just showing sort of the wins that we're producing across every single region, right? When you start to work with different RVPs and different directors that are supporting different regions, especially from sales and marketing, you want to be able to show the different channels that you're driving, right? So, like you said, you worked at Alice with direct mail. We've done stuff with Alice. I've done stuff with Alice in the past, and Sendoso and a couple other companies, right? So we're showing not only like our wins, we're showing wins from top of the funnel, like MQL leads, all the way down through pipeline generated, right? Through closed won contracts, right? So I think that's another thing to really be able to show is, all right, let's zoom out, let's show the channel performance for each of these marketing activities that we're doing, and what are the wins that we're producing across the board for all the different regions, right? And this is also a really good way for to look at it as an internal team to see what regions is really producing, which program, where do we put more investment in, so forth and so on. So this is just like one quick zoom out. Another thing I wanted to show you is We're a big believer in dashboards here at RevSure. So we actually have customized dashboards that you can build out, bring in any viewpoints that you want in, any reports. So this is just a snapshot of marketing performance that goes out to leadership. For example, we're showing you kind of as we line up, what's our money being spent on? What's the generated lead volume? What's the generated pipeline volume? Like very like metrics that go all the way through the funnel so that sales can look at it, marketing can look at it. You can go look at it by month, quarter by quarter, however you want to drill down into it. This is really big. And what we do is we build out, like I said, dashboards, and they'll have sometimes, 8 to 10 reports in it that'll go out on a weekly or a monthly basis, that'll go out to sales, that'll go out to our executive leadership team, so forth and so on. And we have a lot of customers that do this as well, that keeps everyone aligned, right? I think the biggest thing is that when you stop sending out reports, people are in the dark, just leads to misalignment, right? So being able to send out a report, maybe with a quick write up every month, like every week. I think I'm a believer in kind of the weekly reports. My teams do it all the way from individual teams all the way up to the executive level. It just keeps everyone aligned. It keeps everyone knowing what's going on. There's no surprises at the end of the day, so forth and so on. So I'd say keep the surprises away, keep everyone in the know, be able to show people numbers that everyone cares about, and that's easy to read and easy to digest at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100% with you there. You brought up something interesting, but before I get into it, for anyone that's listening, if you do have questions, drop it in the Q&A again. Like happy to answer anything as we go through. Don't want this to just be like the Nick and Alex show. Happy to try to add, even if you have a question about your own organization that you want to maybe try to solve live. Like, I don't know, we didn't plan on that, but cool, let's try it because I'm always down to try new things. But going back to what you said about the goals aligning, I think it's spot on. And for me, you talked a little bit about this, but I'd add that regular check-ins with leadership can be invaluable. And you know, I wasn't a VP or anything. I had, director, senior director titles, but I still made time to have regular check-ins with the leadership team because of the role, because of the team that I worked on. And we instituted these monthly alignment meetings where we review our marketing KPIs along with the company's broader business objectives. And so this, honestly, if you're not doing that, please do that. But this practice ended up helping us pivot so quickly when we needed to, and it significantly increased the executive buy-in for our strategies at like the higher level. Because it's like, all right, we know what our big rocks are, we know what our themes are for either the quarter, the theme, or the half, or whatever it is. But you still need, the budget approval, and maybe you need the executive team brought in. And especially if you're going down the ABM path, like there should be for you guys,
Mm-hmm.
you're in the enterprise space. But when you get into the enterprise space, there should be mapping from your executive team to their executive team all the way through. So I definitely think some of those things about, regular check-ins, monthly alignment meetings can be very, very valuable if you're a revenue facing marketer. Cool. So let's dive into this last question that I have here. It's all about, enhancing communication. We've talked about it. You have to be a communicative marketer to be able to succeed today. And so,
Yep.
Alex, what are some of the strategies that you've done in the past and even now for improving communication between the marketing teams and the executives?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll stop sharing my screen because I think we kind of covered up on all of that, which is great. Some ways that I think about it, right, in terms of how do we communicate between all the go-to-market teams and the executive teams and the tie-in is, what my team does is we do weekly check-ins across all go-to-market. So that's one thing that we do. We do open office hours at a lot of places that I'm at as well. So this allows like a place for people to come in with really no stupid questions, right? Where the marketing team shows up and the sales team can show up at any time, usually hosted by marketing. They can come and say, "Hey, what are the programs we're doing? What are the lead statuses that I'm seeing? What is the information I'm seeing in my CRM in this report? We have an upcoming event. Can I hear more about the events?" I would say that's really critical to be able to build that relationship with sales, is just being like, "Hey, we're gonna be an open, either just open door policy, like you can Slack us, you can communicate with us, or we're just going to have times 2 times a week for 45 minutes. You just drop on in and you can ask us any questions," right? I think some of the biggest, because then you are eliminating friction at the end of the day, and some of the biggest things that I see is, oh, I haven't followed up with these leads because I don't have any information on them. It's like, well, you could have showed up to office hours, or you could have slacked us, or we could have that Slack channel. That's totally appropriate. And if one person asks a question, there's guaranteed most likely some other people that have that same question in the back of their mind, right? So creating a space that you can ask questions for, that you can get your answers to, that are really quick. And I would say that's another thing, is getting your answers that are really quick, right? Because if it's following up from events, if it's making sure you have the right messaging to go out for this certain product line, right, that you're supporting, and so forth and so on. And a lot of times that is so heavily reliant on marketing, right? And the last thing you want to do is kind of hamper your team to not have that open communication and to not have that comfortability and not have that trust. So I'd say those are some of the biggest things that I see day to day. And even if you show up for a 45-minute thing and you're doing work on your end and only two people show up, hey, you solve two people's problems, right? And a lot of times what ends up happening is within their own sales groups, they come to, let's say two people, like I said, show up to the office hours, they go tell their team. They have their own internal Slack groups, they have their own internal meetings that they're doing with the SDR teams and the regional AE teams, so forth and so on, to say, hey, I went to office hours. This is what's coming up. You should be aware of this, right? Like you can ping Alex and his team, so forth and so on. So I'd say it actually kind of spreads and goes a lot farther than you think. But being able to create that environment and that atmosphere where you can just come and have conversation is huge. Rob, some of the biggest things I say is when sales and marketing start kind of drifting from each other, so forth and so on, that's really big. I would say the other thing too is be able to have some fun with each other, and I think that's kind of hard in an environment, post pandemic, where a lot of people are remote. But try to get in front of people, like try to show up at President's Club and SKOs and offsites and so forth and so on, like even if it's for a day, even if it's for a dinner. Like I would say, get on the road, get in front of people, especially from a marketing side and a go-to-market side, to build those relationships, because it really does go a far way, right? Like people are people. People still value relationships, especially if you're not in the office every day. I know some companies have gone back to that, but when you're able to build relationships with the sales team and the rev ops org, in marketing and inside sales, in finance and accounting, like it just goes so much further in terms of kind of breaking down those barriers, right? We all get in our head. We all say, "Hey, this is a stupid question," or "This is," like I'd be embarrassed to ask this, but like if you went out with that person and had dinner with them and hung out with them in a little bit more loose environment, and you guys built a relationship, it becomes a lot more easier. So I'd say that's the other thing as well. And my team, we try to do that as well. I try to get people to events and we go have some fun either the day after or the day before, get to know each other some more, stuff like that is really critical as well. Building those relationships internally, more than just talking business, right? Like we're all people. And I know this is a people first approach that you guys have at TAC. It's, people buy from people. Yeah, at the end of the day, your coworker is probably going to go and work at another company, at another fast growing company, where that relationship's just going to bring even more value to you both down the line. So those are just some of my thoughts: is get in front of people, build environments that allow people to have it, build relationships, because those relationships are going to last longer, than anything else, especially in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great strategies. Big believer of all of that as well. Although I've been remote for like 11 years now, so I'll probably never go back to an office if I'm being honest with you. But I do enjoy still seeing people, whether that's at events or, meetups, things like that. So, I think in my experience, developing like an executive summary format for our reports has
Mm,
been really transformational. And like the way that I've always approached it for all of the campaigns and things that I've done was there was really three reports or three summaries for people. There was one for the executive team, there was one for the broader company, and then there was one for the marketing team, because all three of those are going to care about different things. Your executive team is going to care about really one piece. The company's more of just like, hey, look at this cool thing that we did. This is what come from it. And then your marketing team is going to really care about marketing specific KPIs, things like that. And one of the things that we did is we distilled like complex campaign data into a one-page overview. So it highlighted key
Mhm.
metrics, challenges, upcoming opportunities. And I think I did this at multiple companies, but it not only improved the comprehension of just understanding what marketing was actually doing, but I feel like it also
Mhm.
sparked more productive conversations with our C-suite. And it was something where they felt like, all right, cool, I get this because they're busy people, I get that. But if you can distill
Yeah.
it down into something that's, easy to tangible, easy to understand, and you're actually showcasing why it matters to the organization, those conversations become a lot more productive. They become a lot more willing to like, all right, yeah, I'm on board with this. This is awesome. Let's invest more money. This seems to be working, all of that. So
Mhm.
huge believer of that too. Um, I think, those were the big questions. It looks like nothing from a Q and A perspective came in. I don't know, Alex, if there's any more, final thoughts. We can give some people some time back maybe. But I'll turn it over to you to kind of wrap things up.
Yeah, I think today we talked about a lot of good things. We talked about showing your wins and losses, what to pivot to in terms of continuing to invest in, right? Being able to be data driven, right? Having the reports, so forth and so on. So I'd say those are all like massively important to have. I think it's a very good way to think about building relationships cross functionally with teams, building trust with executives. I thought we covered a lot of great topics today, and no, I think that's it from my side. I know that we have a giveaway too as well, so happy to go into that. Did I see one Q&A come in? Um,
Yeah, it says this webinar majorly showed event and analytics. However, could you share more on social email and website analytics? I don't know if you have any thoughts there.
Yeah. Yeah, so we showed a lot of events. Actually, just really quickly there, to kind of answer your question, that first slide that I actually shared up was, and we'll send out a recording of this, was actually like Google Analytics, which incorporates is like website traffic, both from an organic and paid standpoint. You can do the same type of viewpoints, with RevShare, with email and organic social, paid social, and same with web. We actually have a tracker that goes on the website. So we'd be happy to show you that more in detail. So I'll follow up with you individually, on that specifically. But if you take that event view and kind of tweak it towards the other channels and the other activities that you're saying, we're able to show those views as well. So I'll follow up with that individually.
Yeah, I love that. I was gonna say for me, I mean, social is a big part of what I've done as well. And I think like, I mean, for social in like LinkedIn specifically, I relied a lot on like the self-reported attribution that funneled into everything else because, I'll take Alice as an example. I was there for 2 years, drove $2 million in pipeline just through my content on LinkedIn. 60% of that closed. Now, that's $1.2 million. If I can go to any executive team and be like, hey, all you're doing is paying my salary. This is just something that I'm doing just for my own personal benefit. But like, look, I was able to get you $1.2 million at really a zero cost outside of my salary. Like, they were blown away. They were like, how do we create an army of employees? And I think then that goes into like, all right, cool. You have the data, it's working with one person. How can then you then take that and scale that? And it's kind of like creating an employee advocacy program to a certain degree, but it's people that actually want to do it and not just posting company content, which I think is a whole nother story. But yeah, I mean, that's the social piece. I mean, email, definitely, website analytics, I think it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, that's my only thoughts there.
Totally, totally. No, I appreciate kind of the insight there. And just so we're aware of everyone's time, I think we can probably just go into the giveaway now. I know
Yeah.
that we've got quite a few people online, and I'm going to take just a quick list and honestly, just kind of pick out a random person. So let me pull up the attendees really quick,
Can you pick
and
me?
I'll reach. You are not getting picked. You're excluded from this one, Nick. Um, really quickly, I'm going to pick. Just randomly picking here, Natasha N. So Natasha, I'll reach out to you individually, and we'll get your information just to send over that Yeti cooler. You are a winner today. So congrats on that. appreciated everyone that attended today and all of that good stuff. So I think we got another one here. Natasha, yes, I'll reach out to you. Congratulations on your win. And again, thank you so much, Nick, today for leading the conversation and sharing your insights. It was fantastic. So thank you, everyone, for joining too.
Yeah, thank you. You could have spent your time anywhere. You spent it with us. We're incredibly grateful. If you have any questions, reach out to Alex or I on LinkedIn. We're always happy to help you and enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.